So coming later today is going to be the latest season for Marvel Snap, Daredevil Crimson Twilight. This is going to have 8 new cards, all themed around the Daredevil lore. And so I wanted to go ahead and rate them based on, how I think they're going to land this season. We've seen these cards when they were data mined a couple months ago. They've changed slightly since then, but they've basically all stayed the same to what we thought they were going to do then. So we've had a lot of time to kind of think about them and see what they would do. And now that we have just this OTA from last week and another one coming up this week, we can kind of see like where the meta is going to land in it throughout the month. We can kind of take some guesses as to how good these cards are going to end up. That'll help inform you on whether you should be spending your tokens on these cards, whether you want to get the season pass or not. But we're just going to kind of talk about what each one does and where I would rank them. Our first card is the Season Pass card, Shadowlands Daredevil. He's a 2/3 with on reveal, shuffle in 3 demons. When you draw a card with 6 or more power, plus 2 power. I've seen a lot of people kind of focus on the negatives of this card. So right away, you're shuffling in 3 different cards into your deck. This is going to dilute your draws, make it harder for you to find your specific combo pieces. It's basically going to make it so that you're getting further away from the things that you want to draw. But in return, they're being replaced with 1/6s, right? Like these are the same demons that the hood makes. It's not necessarily a bad thing to draw a card with that much power. As we have to be reminded time and time again, Marvel Snap games are won based on power on the board, right? So if you're drawing things that are pretty big, then and getting to play them, chances are you're going to be able to out-tempo your opponent most of the time. Daredevil also doesn't just give you things to draw, it gains its own power, right? Like it starts off as this 2/3, but if you get to play that on turn 2 and you draw something that procs it every turn, we're looking at 2/5 all the way to 7, 9, 11, 13. That's crazy, right? Like we're gonna have such a big guy here. You can even pair this up with things. I've been hearing a lot of talk about King Eitri lately. Now that he's been buffed up to a 1/3, you can have this curve where you play King Eitri on 1 and then Shadowlands Daredevil on 2 and immediately proc it right there for the draw of a demon. I think there's a lot of different synergies and hooks that this guy offers, more so than what is expected at first. And in fact, that reminds me a lot of both, I think, Sam Wilson and Kate Bishop, both 2-cost season pass cards that on the face of it did one thing and it seemed okay. But when you really started to drill down into what it can hook into, all the different kind of decks it can support, the scaling that it does, it turns out that it's a lot better than it seems. The question that I have really is if this is the right kind of meta game for this card. Like, do we want a 2-cost scaler right now? I think the immediate home I can think of is replacing Moondragon in ramp decks. I think after she got nerfed, we kind of seen ramp decks kind of slide away a little bit, just because they're not really doing as much as they could be at the moment. This would be the kind of thing that slides back into there, maybe to give it some more juice. For now, I'm going to put it up here. If we put Shadowlands up here in Meta Relevant, I definitely think he's like a good card. I expect that I'm higher on him than most other people. I think we're going to see over the next couple days that people are going to be surprised at what it actually does. Next up is Wilson Fisk, our super premium pass card. He's a 5/9, but it says cost 3 if you have the highest power among cards in play. I really like this guy. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of Fisk. He's basically the newest member of the 3-cost big power cards. If you've been playing for a while, you remember things like Gladiator and then Speed and now Debris these days. The idea behind these cards is that it's turn 3 is when you're kind of following up on your turn 2 play, and you want to be playing, if you're not playing some kind of dedicated combo deck, you're looking to play the most points possible. And every time cards like these come out, everyone always says, okay, it's not very exciting, they're just points, it can be replaced with other things. The difference between a 3/8 and a 3/6 or 7 is not that big. but now we're starting to encroach into numbers like 3-9, right? And suddenly it's becoming less and less replaceable, especially as we've seen time and time again. When we say these cards are boring, they end up being staples in the decks, and the part that everyone kind of looks on videos when they see other people playing these decks and goes, what can I replace this with? And the answers are never usually as good. So Wilson Fisk is the next member of that kind of troop, in my opinion. He doesn't need to have specifically the highest power, like solely. Like it can be, since it says among cards in play, you can be tied for highest power and still get the cost reduction, which I think is really big too, because you're going to be seeing throughout the next week and probably beyond that, you're going to be seeing a lot of fighting for that power early in the game, which is something that I really am liking about, I guess, the new direction that this would take Marvel Snap in. We see a lot of Marvel Snap is based on trying to win turn 6, right? And flipping the board and different kind of powers on locations, holding back as much as you can. But Wilson Fisk is asking you to be playing stuff early. It's kind of like Iron Patriot, right? Which is, a good follow-up to Iron Patriot. Wilson Fisk, after playing IP, is definitely the kind of thing you want to do to ensure what it is, right? And that's that kind of synergy. We're looking at that. Ascani Sun is another card that wants you to be winning right away. Even a card coming up that we're going to be talking about shortly, Punisher, War Machine. So there are things that you want to do. But basically, the idea is that if you're a deck that wants to be controlling priority, like taking it as early as possible and then keeping it, Wilson Fisk can be the card you want. So I actually think he's better than Daredevil. I think I'm going to put him up here right now. So he might end up going up to the best card of the season, but for now, let's just keep it here. The idea being is that you're going to be seeing a lot of him. There's not really a way to stop him, really. Like you can play Mobius, right, to stop cost reduction, but that's a 3-cost card. So it's generally going to be played at the same time as Fisk, and then it's too late, right? The best way to stop him is to have the strongest power card, but if your opponent's going to be fighting for that as much as you are, and especially with recent buffs to things like Martyr to make it a 1/6, I could see that being played a lot as a pair with Wilson Fisk. Things like Lizard as well, Maximus even. So it's definitely going to be hard to take this away from a deck that's dedicated to getting Fisk down as fast as possible. Our first Series 5 release of the month, Karen Page. She's a 4/5 with on reveal, give one of your 1, 2, and 3 cost characters plus 2 power each. Okay, so I'll admit right away I'm struggling with this one. I'm not exactly sure why this is coming out the way it is, which is basically, as you can kind of see from the tier list, right away you can tell where I'm going to be putting her. I don't know what the thought process behind this is. It's really expensive, and it only gives +6 across 3 different bodies, right? 4 costs is way too much for this kind of ability. Look at the kind of stuff that we're using to buff cards right now. Think about Maverick. Think about Silver Surfer. Think about Viv Vision. The things that make those good is because they cost 3. They get to go down early enough before you can shift your game plan into, okay, how do I start securing locations? By making this a 4 cost, it's kind of too late, in my opinion, right? Like if you're playing it on turn 4, you're getting a couple buffs to some small stuff, sure, but that requires you to have been playing those small stuff, right? Like you have to play something on 1, you have to play something on 2, and you play something on 3, and they have to be 1, 2, 3s to get the most out of her. You can't be, conserving energy in different ways. You can't play multiple 1s on 2, that kind of thing, right? It's putting you in a box, making you have to play a specific way, and then the outcome that you get out of it is not worth all that effort. You can compare Karen Page to the most recent kind of card in this place, Wolverine Horseman of War, which is finally starting to take off now in decks after its OTA buff that it got recently. And that card, it spreads out a lot more power, asking you for a lot less of a commitment, right? You only have to buff Wolverine itself by 2 to make it give all its power across 3 different locations. It's not even looking for specific cards. So I'm not sure what the goal for Karen Page here is. It really kind of sucks as like the first week of cards. Like it makes it seem like we're only going to be looking at Fisk and Daredevil. I don't think we're going to see a lot of Karen Page being played. If I was going to buff this card, first thing I would do would be to cut its ability a little bit and reduce its cost. So I would make it a 3 cost that only increases 1 and 2s, right? So that way you still keep that kind of progression, that ladder they're trying to do. They're trying to go 1, 2, 3, 4. I would just make it 1, 2, 3. And I think that would make her marginally better. At very least, it'd be easier to play. Next up is Punisher War Machine. 2/2, when drawn, mark one of your empty locations. And then it has objective, win that location, and you get +1 max energy. So this is, I think, the last objective card we have in the data mines. So this is we've had 2 months full of objectives, and now we're looking at basically the last hurrah on it, right? So if we still need a little refresher on what objective does, we accomplish what it asks of us to do through our game state right before the end of the turn, and then after the end of the turn, the objective will fire. So in Punisher's case, it adds a little bit of an extra dimension here because it marks a location when it's drawn. So right away, you don't have to have him on the board yet. Just when you draw him, picks an empty location and then selects it. If you remember the Team Clash event we've had a couple times, the Guardians of the Galaxy team had a similar mechanic where a location would light up at the start of every turn, and that's the one they wanted you to play on to get an extra bonus. Punisher does something similar, except it doesn't change, right? Like he picks the empty location as soon as he's drawn, which means you need to have an empty location for him to pick. So this is where we're going to hit the first problem with Punisher, is that you have to draw him early enough that you will have an empty location still to use it on. You could always, keep a location empty just in case you draw him later, but how late are you willing to hold that off, right? The other problem with him is that he needs to be on board for his objective to trigger. No objective works in hand, right? Like you need to play him. You don't necessarily have to win the location with him, but you do need to get him on board and then win a location. It's not like you can win the location on, say, turn 1 when you draw him, and then on turn 2 play him and it'll still work. You need to be winning the location when he's on the board. He's a 2/2, so he's not going to be contributing a lot to it himself. So we're going to have to be looking at sort of like follow-up plays or things that we can play that increase the power. Like, I'm thinking maybe the idea behind this is that you're supposed to have Punisher and then play Wilson Fisk right after and just win it on turn 3. That would require you to probably have a big 1, right? Like we're talking something like Hydra Bob is a 1/4, or maybe Martyr is a new 1/6. So the idea there being that as long as you have a big card somewhere on the board, and then you draw a Punisher, you mark an empty location, and then you play him, and then on 3 play Fisk in that empty spot, hoping that it wins. You can get lucky. And then you can win with Punisher on turn 2, and then you can have 4 energy going into turn 3. Like it's definitely the fastest max ramp that we have in the game. We previously have things like Psylocke, that you can play it on turn 2 and then go into turn 3 with 4 energy, but that doesn't stay in like forever. It's just for that one turn. Punisher would be the first time we get a 2 cost that can give you maximum energy. So there's probably some potential there, some things that need to be worked out, some decks that can make it fine. For now, I think he might just go and like fine enough, because I can definitely see ramp having a use. Like we just came out of a meta where it was Star-Lord was running things because of all that extra energy, right? So maybe in a way that you can abuse that extra +1 can help. Maybe Punisher finds some space there. Next up is Ikari. Ikari is our first Series 4 of this month. We get him in the game mode, the new Sanctum Showdown Surge. So this guy is a 4/12. You can only play this where an enemy is afflicted with negative power. So we're starting to see 4s kind of get bigger and bigger, right? Like it used to be that the threshold for 4s was kind of around like 410. Now Ikari being our first 4/12 means that the game is asking more of us in terms of how much power we get to put out, right? We also have to afflict something on their side to be able to play him. It's kind of like Cull Obsidian, where Cull Obsidian can only be played on a location with a 1-cost card in your side. Ikari's looking for you to specifically have an afflicted card on their side to play it. Which means that if you're in a dedicated deck for affliction, you're going to have ample opportunity to play this card, right? Like just one hazmat on a full board lets you be able to put him anywhere. Do we want this kind of thing? Is affliction decks looking for a 4/12? They already have a lot of different cards at 4 costs. Like we're talking like Laufey, Man-Thing, Malekith. Like this is pretty much the main affliction deck, and then your turn 5 is usually like, Ajax or one of those 4s that you haven't played yet. This being another 4 cost and one that doesn't actually contribute to even more afflicting, makes it kind of awkward. I could see this being the kind of thing that you'd like to have with the new Polaris Horseman, because she can just pull it down into any location. But I mean, if we're doing that, then we don't really need it to be in an afflict deck. But Polaris needs affliction for it to work, right? You can kind of see where they're kind of opposing each other there. It doesn't really fit where it should. If it was able to be on a place where there's any afflicted card, and you can have some of your own affliction happening, then I could see more use for it. Because you could do something like Typhoid Mary as a 4/10, and then afflict like one of your other cards, and then play Ikari as another 4 big, right? But as it stands, that's not what it does. So I'm gonna have to put him in. I think needs something unexpected to be good. Like I think if there's a specific affliction build that wants these like big 4s, then I think that this will find a home. But as it is right now, I'm not really seeing where it could be. I don't think it's as bad as Karen Page, because I think 4/12 is the kind of number where you start like making excuses to use it, right? Like you're trying to find ways to include this, whereas Karen was just not. There wasn't much there for you to do. Okay, so next up is Muse. Muse is 3/3 with ongoing. Ongoing +3 power for each location where one of your cards has been destroyed. I'm really excited about this one. I think I'm higher on Muse than a lot of people are. When I see Muse, I see Hydra Stomper for destroy. Like Hydra Stomper, when that came out, was a card that a lot of people were high on, but other people were saying, I don't know how many times you can move something around to make it worth it. And then we generally see when Hydra Stomper is played in these decks, it ends up being like, 3/11, 3/12. Like it's a really big number that you can just play at any time because it's ongoing, right? It counts everything that happened before it, everything that happened after. And I see Muse filling a similar space for destroy decks. If you can get all 3 locations with something destroyed in it, and it doesn't, just one thing, right? It doesn't have to be destroying, a whole location or anything. We can make Muse a 3/12. And that kind of sits around the same kind of number that Hydra Stomper is, right? For probably less work. The question, I guess, then is, does destroy decks need a 3/12 like ongoing? Probably not the dedicated ones, like the specific classic destroy with like Deadpool trying to destroy him and Wolverine and X-23 over and over again, or I guess now Headpool, right? That deck where you're just destroying a bunch of things over and over and over and then playing null at the end, not looking to use Muse. But I think Muse is going to help open up packages of destroy in different areas. We've seen Phantom X Wild Child decks, the ones that do, when destroyed, when discarded things. We've seen them struggle. We've seen them try to like get off the ground. I think Muse is a key piece in that. I can see Muse also working out in something for Morgana, right? Like if you're destroying a whole bunch of stuff and then you bring it right back to your hand after, that doesn't delete Muse's ability, right? Just because they're destroyed and returned doesn't mean that they're no longer still destroyed. So that's just a good stat stick there. I don't have the deck formed in my head yet, but I do think that this is the kind of thing that finds a home in these places and helps elevate them. Like we were saying before, you need stats to win, and Muse is offering a lot of them. So I'm going to put Muse in Meta Relevant. I think we're going to see a Muse deck very soon. It will be basically when it comes out. All right, next up we have our last Series 5 of the month. This is Lady Bullseye. 2/2, On reveal, afflict an enemy card with -2 power. Repeat on a different enemy for each of your unspent energy. So I've seen people read this wrong. She will always do a -2 power with her on reveal all the time. Basically, it's an on reveal, and then it's going to repeat itself based on the amount of energy you have not spent, right? So if it's turn 3 and you just play Lady Bullseye, you're saving 1 energy. Lady Bullseye will trigger her first one, so it does -2, and then because you have 1 unspent energy, she'll do it again. If it's turn 5 and you just play Lady Bullseye, she will do her first trigger of -2, and then she gets 3 more repeats, so a total of -8 across 4 different cards. It's a kind of I'm interested in the design. I really like the idea of it because it's a neat way to do what other games call an X cost. So you'll see in other card games, instead of like there being a firm determined cost to play this card. So with Lady Bullseye, it says 2 on it, right? In other card games, you'd see it says X, where X would be the amount of energy you want to spend on it. Bullseye, this card is doing something very similar to that, where she's asking you, okay, this costs 2, but if you basically use all 5 of your energy for her for a turn, she really costs 5, but does extra because of that, and she scales appropriately. Whether or not the scaling is worth it, we're going to have to do some math on that, right? So at 2, when you play her just on turn 2, regular by yourself, you do 2/4, which is basically pretty good for a 2 cost, right? Most 2 costs are 2 3s. On turn 3, though, when you play her, suddenly she's a 3/6, which is also pretty normal. Then we get up to 4/8, which is very low for a 4 cost. We're already looking at Karen and Akari being much higher than that, and they're not something we're particularly excited about just in this season alone. At a 5 cost, she's going to be doing 4 afflicts, so we're looking at a 5/10, which is kind of normal for 5 costs. And then at 6, she's going to be doing 5 afflictions, so we're looking at about a 6/12, which is pretty normal. That's like used to be old Hulk, and they've kind of pushed that number up to 14, so she's really kind of behind. She also needs bodies to do it too. Like, it's not going to just repeatedly hit the same one. It has to be different enemies each time. So if your opponent for some reason doesn't have a full board when you play her, she's not going to be getting as much value there either. It seems like a new way to make a kind of like Hazmat 2. She's definitely worse than Hazmat though. And I'm not even sure an Affliction deck would want to be sacrificing the energy. So it sounds more like the kind of card that fits in like High Evolutionary Afflict. And that's not exactly a deck that's been like at the top of the meta for a long time, right? So my thought is she's probably better than Akari. So I'm going to go with need something unexpected to be good. We're going to need like a very out of the box deck to come out to try to really take advantage of the unspent energy, I think, to really make her shine. Alright, so our last card is a new Series 4 card for us. It's for the game mode Team Clash. This is Stick. Stick is a 4/3. On reveal, give the next card you play power equal to this card's power. If that text sounds familiar, it's because it's basically what Maverick does word for word. Maverick, of course, being an activate, this being an on reveal, but essentially it is the same idea. It's taking power buffs and then passing it along to the next thing. So the idea here is that you're going to be wanting to buff Stick as much as possible before you play the next card that is going to be the actual target of the buffs. But like Maverick, it doesn't like move the buffs off of him, it still keeps all that. So if you were to give Stick, say, +5 power, he would still have 8 power after giving the next card you play +8. Stick's going to be very good. I'm heavily biased against these kind of cards. I don't really like this kind of strategy of hand buffing or pre-buffing your stuff before you play them. But I think what the real stuff for Stick is going to be, I got excited from playing that Storm Mother Ascani deck. That was the one that really showed me, oh, okay, here's the potential for this kind of thing. You play this guy behind a Captain Carter, for example, and he's going to have all that power that Captain Carter gives, and pass that along to the next card. You play a Maverick into this, right? You can keep that chain going. Storm itself buffing it pretty easily in hand along with a bunch of other things. This is a contender for a really powerful card, and I can see this kind of being that kind of, I guess, mid-range plus, right? Like, it's like not quite combo, but it's not quite mid-range. It's kind of in that space in between where you're getting to play, like, 30 power broods, right? Like, this is the kind of thing that helps enable that more redundancy in that kind of deck. I think he's going to be pretty meta relevant. I'm going to put him right near at the top here. We're going to be seeing a lot of stick. Okay, so this is basically where we're kind of at here with the season. I guess if we're going to crown a card the best of the season, I'm definitely going to be sticking between either Fisk and Stick here. My concern here is that they both do kind of powerful things for different reasons, right? Like, Fisk is a priority man, right? Like, he's going to be keeping your Supergiant decks in control, and he's going to let you be able to deploy those tech cards when you need to. You're always going to be able to Negasonic what you want. You're always going to be able to hide the specific thing you want to go off first under Supergiant. It's going to be very powerful there. Stick is a lot flashier, right? Like, it's definitely going to be the card that shows off all the points that you want to do and those big combos. It's definitely between the two of them. If I have to decide right now, I think I'm going to go with Stick. I think Stick is going to be our best card of the season, barring any kind of crazy OTA changes, right? Like, if something, I think the thing I've been joking a lot on the Discord servers is if they kill Maverick in the next OTA, then Stick's value goes down a lot too. If they change Captain Carter in any way, then Stick's value goes down a lot. I think that's probably the best home for him at the moment. But for now, this is kind of where I'm going to land on this season. In terms of what you would want to buy, in terms of how we're going to spend our tokens, I think everything above meta relevant is safe game here, and Stick is free even, right? So that's great there for you. Anything here is going to be cards that are going to be useful, I think. Punisher might need like a specific deck. Same with like these guys, but the Affliction deck is probably kind of worse because you always have Luke Cage to stop it. I would not spend tokens personally on Karen Page. If you have an abundance of resources and you buy every card, then you might as well get her. But if you're looking to be frugal about it, maybe only because you can get, I think it's about, the math works out to be 3 new cards a season if you're playing free to play. I would not let Karen Page be one of them. But yeah, so this is my thoughts on Daredevil Crimson Twilight. Let me know in the comments below what you guys disagree with or what you think I'm missing. Tell me if there's something completely obvious that I'm forgetting about some of these lower cards here. If there's a key piece or synergy that I'm not thinking of that elevates them, let me know and I'll definitely consider that. But yeah, this is my first time doing this kind of format. Let me know if this is the kind of thing you want to keep seeing. Please like and sub to my channel here. That's going to help me grow and help me kind of figure out what kind of content you guys are interested in. But stay tuned throughout the week. We've got some more stuff coming. We're going to have some decks featuring some of these cards for sure. We're definitely going to continue on Friday helping out with everyone with the weekend missions. So we'll definitely have a deck for Karen Page fans even. But yeah, until then, we'll see you later. Thank you.